Welcome to the Let's Get Heavy podcast, where we explore the realms of heavy music and have conversations with some of the most talented bands within the genre. In this episode, I'm chatting with the icon known as Antony Abaddon Bray, where we discuss his rich history within the metal community. So let's get heavy. First of all, thank you very much for agreeing to sit down with myself at Get Heavy UK. I'm Stephen, also known as Beardbo on online, etc. And the reason why I wanted to chat with yourself is because you're one of the most influential people in metal today, still influencing bands left, right, and centre, mate. So for me, this is an absolute honour to chatting with yourself.
Oh, thank you. Very cool.
No worries whatsoever. So basically, I just want to get a history on your music career because you've got an amazing legacy. So kind of just want to start with the early days, go back to the beginning. What sparked your passion for drumming and playing metal?
When I was 8 or 9, I used to be trusted to babysit for relatives, and a guy called Jude was going out with one of my cousins, and he had 2 kids. And one night he just said, do you have a record player in the house, a vinyl player?" I said, "No, we don't have that kind of thing." He said, "Well, this is it, and this is how you use it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He says, "You can use it, but if the kids are in bed, obviously turn it down." Okay, cool. He said, "This is a me record collection. Be very careful with it, but this is a band called Black Sabbath. Why don't you give that a go and see if you like it?" And I was just absolutely knocked out. It was the first thing I ever played was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath,
Nice.
and I couldn't believe it. And then after that, a slightly older school friend of mine got me into Deep Purple, and that was that. I heard Ian Pace. A little bit later on with Rainbow, I heard Cozy Powell, and that was that. That was absolutely that. I didn't want to do anything else. I mean, I absolutely loved Richie Blackmore, but I didn't want to play guitar. I didn't want to sing. It just had to be drums.
Wow.
Um, and the scene in Newcastle at the time was amazing. Saturday afternoons, you'd go to guitar shops, you'd go to Handyside Arcade, Fairs, places like that, and you'd hang out with people that you would only see on a Saturday, maybe. You get a gang from South Shields travelling up there, a gang from Wall's End, and would all sort of get together and just talk about bands and buy T-shirts and talk about rock music. We'd go and hang out in guitar shops. And one of the things, obviously, I talked about before social media. So one of the things in the guitar shops were little yellow post-it notes stuck on the wall as you went in.
Right.
And it would say guitarist wanted, 20 to 25. Drummer wanted, must be able to play everything by Rush. That kind of stuff. And I saw one with drummer wanted for a band that rehearsed in a church hall up in the West Road. And it turned out that Jeff Mantis Dunn was the guitar player. So I got me gear together and went up there and had a blast. And I was very impressed with Jeff, but not so impressed with the rest of the band. And I suggested to Jeff that we sack the band and the rest of the band, and I had a singer. At that time, I was an apprentice in a place called Ray Rolls in Heaven, and there was a guy who was a friend of mine called Clive Archer,
Right.
and another guy called Eric Cook. The three of us knocked around together, and I suggested that I bring Clive in as a singer. Clive was heavily influenced by Judas Priest, which Jeff liked, and Alice Cooper. And I brought Clive up, and he brought a lot of theatrics straight away. And I was turning up with drum risers and massive drum kits and pyrotechnics and all this backdrops, all this kind of thing.
Nice.
So the theatricals of the band, although we weren't called Venom, the theatricals and the stage show and the presence was there pretty much from day one. And of course, Eric went on. Eric went on to manage the band. He, as Jeff, as me, hadn't done any of this professionally, but with all of us, and subsequently with Conrad Kronos, the passion was gigantic. The passion took over from any kind of, I suppose, professionalism, and the passion was there right from the get go, really.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. That. So the birth of a legendary band, Venom. How did Venom come together? What was the yes? Go on. Sorry.
Pretty much as I said, the singer Clive was in. Jeff went out on a night out with his girlfriend, and he met Conrad, who worked at Neat Records in Wallsend, and Neat was the big deal. They had Raven, they had Fist, they had Avenger, they had Blitzkrieg, they had everything pretty much that became the new wave of British heavy metal, apart from Iron Maiden and Saxon. Pretty much all came out of one little doorway on Wallsend High Street. The name Venom came when we used to rehearse. We rehearsed, as I said, in the church at the top of the Westgate Road, which was full of motorbike shops. So you got all the bikers going there on a Saturday afternoon and just basically checking out the bikes and whatnot. And somebody said, "Oh, there's a band, heavy metal band, rehearsing at the top of the street." So we'd be rehearsing, and we'd turn around, and there'd be 20 or 30 people sitting on the floor.
Wow.
And it was like from the kind of second rehearsal, we were playing to a captive crowd. A couple of them became road crew for us when we started to get it together a bit better. And it was, like I say, that the main thing about it was the passion, the desire. We didn't particularly want to go and play the clubs and pay our dues as other bands at the time were kind of doing. Bands like Fist and the Tigers and Raven still were working hard and playing to like people in working men's clubs that were basically ignoring them. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted to be on the big stage, on the world stage, and that's what we set out to do.
Yeah.
And with a massive amount of help from Eric Cook, he made that happen for us. And the first major gig we played was a festival in Popperinga in Belgium. None of us had been out of the country before, and we went to play this festival, and it was gigantic. The second gig we played was in New York, the Paramount Theatre on Staten Island. That was the second gig, proper gig we played, and there was a little band supporting us called Metallica.
Wow.
It was their first gig on the East Coast, and we did 2 nights. We did the Friday night and the Sunday night, and we blew a hole in the stage with pyro. Sent one of the bomb pods flying across the crowd, and it was embedded in the back wall.
Wow.
I shouldn't laugh, but it's more out of relief than anything else.
I can imagine. So how was that very first festival experience? Was it, do you have any jitters, or did you just go and just tear the house down?
I think the whole thing with Venom was we just did it. We just did what we did, and I think because there had been a handful of people turning up to see us that hadn't kind of laughed or ran away or threw bottles of piss at us, we just assumed that this is how bands did it. You just went to Belgium, you played to a festival in front of like 2,000 or 3,000 people, and that's just what you do. That's just what Venom do. That's what we are, and that kind of followed us through that whole period.
Nice. And the early days, getting supported by Metallica. What was that like? Look at where Metallica are now.
I mean, basically, Metallica at the time were just a bunch of long-haired punks, the same as us.
Yeah.
I mean, don't forget, it wasn't long before Slayer was supporting us. Exodus, Cradle of Filth, Sepultura. The list is huge. All these bands that had the same attitude, had the same kind of youth on their side. Some were better players than others, but that didn't matter. It was kind of like being in a gang.
Wow.
and meeting other gangs that were like minded. You know,
Amazing.
everybody was getting into girls at the time. We were all smoking and drinking far too much.
As you do.
As you do, I mean, it's just. I mean, again, at the time, the scene in Newcastle was all those people that would get together on a Saturday afternoon. Um, quickly got into being 16, 17, and then started going to the pubs on the night time and mixing, and then you go from the pubs to the Mayfair or Sunderland Mayfair, and you'd be there at 2 or 3 in the morning. Everybody, 2,000 people in the Mayfair, all like-minded, all seeing great bands, AC/DC, loads of great bands. Metallica played there, Slayer played there. And the scene was really, really healthy, and it was you'd meet people, like-minded people, and girlfriends, and it would come and go, and you'd have just have the best time in that part of the 80s, the early 80s.
Yeah, man. Oh, that was absolutely amazing time. That's pretty much what Trillions has become now, though, and it's for
It
what
has Trillions has come back to being that. I mean, Trillions was at the time part of a round of pubs like the Farmers and Julie's, and there was a half a dozen pubs you could, if you got your timing wrong, you'd go into Trillions on a Friday or a Saturday night. It would be practically empty because everybody had gone on to the next pub, and then they'd be back in Trillions again for 11 o'clock before they went to the Mayfair. So it was a really healthy, good time to be around. And
nice.
we as a band kind of grew up with that, and we grew up expecting that. And so when we went to Belgium or America or wherever, and South America, and you saw the same minded people who didn't necessarily speak your language, but got exactly what you were about. Um, it was just an ever extending family.
Yeah, man. Wow. What a legacy. What a legacy. So the demonic moniker, where did the stage name Abaddon come from? Was there a specific inspiration behind it?
Well, Abaddon's from Apollyon in the Book of Revelations in the Bible. Once again, it was a Saturday afternoon, and the three of us, myself, Jeff, and Connor, were walking up around the Haymarket. I remember it quite a sunny day, and Jeff was the first one. He said, "Look, in this band, I think we were talking about doing a demo then, and we were going to have to put our names on something." He said, "In the band, I don't want to be called Jeff Dunn. I want to be called Mantis, Jeff Mantis."
All right.
And Conrad, I think, then said, "Well, yeah, I've been thinking the same thing." This was all within 10 minutes. He said, "I've been thinking the same thing, and I've been thinking the Kronos is a good name." And I said, "Well, I've been reading the Book of Revelations for lyrical ideas, and I like the name Abaddon. Um, and I think I'd like to stick with that." And the three names came together in a flash, just from each individual, and that was that. Clive Archer has since been called Jesus Christ. Now, I never heard him use that, um, but that's been that sort of, not a nickname, but that name's been attributed to him on sort of demos and things that have been released semi-recently.
Right. So, what was the reason? Was it just did you want like some sort of anonymity when you were about? You didn't want like people to know like your real
Yeah,
name, so
I mean, part of the thing, I mean, the music at the time that we were doing was a bastardization of Motorhead and I guess Kiss for the theatricals, but it was, in my mind, it was a push on the thing that Motorhead had with like the Damned and the punk thing, that kind of crossover. Um, but I did the first logo, and I took the logo to the guy from the records, and he said, "I cannot read it." And I said, "Well, you've been holding it for 10 minutes now, looking at it. That tells me that if somebody does that in a record shop and picks it up, you're halfway there." And I showed him the pentagram, and he said, "Well, that's very satanic." I says, "Yeah, exactly the same thing again. We may get banned from a few shops, but I think you'll find that people will pick it up a lot more because they'll be intrigued by it."
yeah,
And again, a lot of other bands have taken that kind of thing and ran with it, especially being the bands in kind of Norway and whatnot, with the with that kind of logo that you can't read type of thing.
yeah. I mean, people
The
say
other thing
that
I did,
people say they can't read your logo. Look at the bands today. It's not
yeah,
no disrespect to those bands, but some of them, it's just the font is insane. So
I think Venom's kind of. when I talk about these things, you have to take it in context. It's like saying The Exorcist is the most wild film. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, for 1970 odd, it absolutely is. You
Yeah.
know, it's that kind of thing. I mean, I did photographs where I had my hair in front of my face and you can't see my face. I think I'm on the poster on black metal, you can't see my face. And again, the guy from Neat, who was a more traditional kind of a person, said, "Look, I can't even see your face." I said, "Yeah, that's part of the mystery. That's part of the mysticism." And to give him his due, he said, "Well, in that case, why are you playing gigs? Why do you just not play gigs and then nobody will ever see you? You just release records with hair in front of your face, and you've got logos you can't read." And I was like, "Well, that would do for me, to tell you the truth."
Oh, wow. So, uh, you've been labeled like as black metal pioneers. So Venom is often credited as being one of the first black metal bands. Did you consciously aim to create a new subgenre, or did you just evolve organically?
We were being interviewed by a guy from Sounds magazine, which then became Kerrang. This
Right.
guy called Gary Bushell, and
Okay.
Gary did most of the punk stuff. So Gary came up to see us, and he had the new copy of Kerrang with him, and he said, "One of the things I need to ask you," he says, "the main thing," he says, "from my point of view," he says, I normally interview punk bands," he says, and he says, "I don't think you're a heavy metal band." And I picked the copy of Kerrang, and it happened to have John Bon Jovi on the front cover.
Right.
And I said, if this is the Bible for heavy metal, and the front cover is Bon Jovi, which I consider pop music, then we are absolutely not heavy metal. We're absolutely not. And he said, what are you? And then the three of us blurted out, we're power metal, we're thrash metal, we're speed metal, we're death metal, we're black metal. And he was like, wait, I've got to write all this down. And that one, again, that one little interview in the office in Neat Records is where all of those subgenres came from, because Metallica were just a heavy metal band,
Yeah.
but they became a thrash band or a speed band or a power metal band. I think Raven were using the word power metal at the time.
Right.
But these genres, and at the time we had the demos rattling around in our heads for the album, which became called black metal. Now, once again, you're talking in context of time, because where black metal went with the extreme vocals and the extreme speed drumming, the crazy corpse paint, where all that went, was born out of that one little interview and using the words black metal to describe ourselves. But like I say, I mean, it's gone on and on. I'm sure it'll continue to get further on. But that was where, I mean, other than that, if you I mean, you know, Lemmy's famous saying was, "We are Motorhead and we are rock and roll." You know,
Yep. Yep.
he never even described themselves as heavy metal, although they were probably the heaviest metal band I ever saw live.
Definitely the loudest.
Oh yeah,
I remember seeing a couple of shows of Lemmy back in the day, and just coming out of my ears would just I just couldn't hear anything.
yeah.
Just so incredibly loud.
They were brilliant. Brilliant.
Definitely rest in peace to that man, because what a legend he was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of breaking the mold a little bit, Venom's music and lyrics push boundaries. How did you deal with the controversy surrounding the band, particularly the PMRC Filthy 15 list?
Well, again, we saw that as a positive. We saw that as another, I don't know what we call it, another diamond in the crown. You know, another. It was just more of being Venom, and the more they would talk about it, the more I would encourage it. You know, it was about being the loudest, the most brash, the most over the top, the most horrible. If we got mentioned as a top five band in magazines, the next week we'd be like in the bottom five. And as long as we were mentioned, I didn't give a shit. As long as there was somebody talking about Venom, if there was a whole page saying, you know, what a shit band we were, that was still a full page that people all around the world were looking at and reading, and have since they've collected these, people have collected these things, you know, and it's as important to have an interview putting Venom down as it is to have a one saying how brilliant somebody thought we were.
Yeah. Did the PMRC try and contact yourselves or anything like that, or try and get you to? go into court or anything like that? Just curious.
No, not really. The only thing that ever happened was I was interviewed by Jeremy Paxman on the what was the show, Tonight Show. I was interviewed, and I was interviewed at the same time as a guy who was a vicar or a priest or a preacher or something.
Right.
And he'd been given this grant from Birmingham City Council to buy real equipment, and he taped Venom and played it backwards, and he played it backwards over the air, and he heard Corona screaming, you know, I am Satan, I will eat your bones, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Jeremy turned around and he says, yes, Abaddon, how do you defend that? I said, well, basically that's a song called In League with Satan. It's off an album called Welcome to Hell. I said, I don't think you need to buy any equipment to play it backwards to do it. It's got a pentagram on the cover, for Christ's sake. You know, you don't have to, you know, we don't hide anything. You don't have to play it. You don't have to spend a lot of money to play it you know, backward, masking forwards to know what this band's about. And he sort of turned to the other guy and went, yeah, exactly. Why are you wasting money?
Why? Exactly why waste all that money? You can't get Welcome to Hell in black metal. It's got a pentagram on the front, so you can't really.
It's called In League with Satan. I mean, work it out. You know, it's English.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Because it was Possessed. That was what was on the Filthy 15 list, wasn't it? Is that correct?
Very likely. I think that was just more to do with the timing of things. I mean, the album that actually got banned from places like W.H. Smith was At War with Satan.
Right.
Well, the sleeve of that, again, it was a sleeve that I did, and it was a sleeve which was the least satanic. It was just a book. It was a brown leather-bound book cover.
Right.
And it was called it was called At War with Satan, which you could take it the other way and say, we are at war with Satan. Do you know what I mean? But that was the one that got banned. They wouldn't have it on the shelves. They wouldn't have it in the window. But again, we saw that as a positive.
Yeah.
You know.
How did you feel when they started slapping that parental advisory sticker on albums? Did you feel that helped as well?
I'm sure they did get stuck on some of us. I don't remember seeing them, but I'm sure they would have got stuck on us. But if they were on there, then yeah, definitely. You know, I would have taken that as a thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely. So the impact on the genre, countless black metal bands cite Venom as a major influence. How does it feel knowing you played such a pivotal role in shaping a whole genre?
Well, it's amazing, but I mean, if you go and listen to Sepultura in South America, or you listen to Pantera, or you listen to Burzum, or any of those bands, none of those bands sound alike. Yet all of those bands, if you bring back the roots of all of those bands, they all come back to Venom. They don't go back to Judas Priest or Deep Purple or even Motorhead. They come back to Venom, where Machine Head sound absolutely different, completely different to Sodom or Destruction. Those bands were coming up in Germany. The bands were coming up in South America, in Japan, up in Scandinavia, and all of those bands sounded completely different, but they all had roots back to Venom. So it wasn't just black metal, but yeah, it's absolutely amazing to have that kind of legacy, to be able to say that, you know, you sort of stoked so many people's lives. I mean, a lot of these people are millionaires now. You know,
Yeah.
The one that sticks with me the most is a guy called Aldo, who's in South America, and I met Aldo, lovely guy, brilliant drummer, lovely guy. And Aldo said, you know what? He said, you really changed my life. And I had heard people say that before. And Aldo said, no, listen to me. He said, when I was at school, he said, I was really useless. And one of the main things was I could not learn English. I refused to learn English. And people said, you're going to get nowhere. He said, and then I heard your albums and I wanted to read the lyrics. So I learned English by reading the lyrics on your albums, on your vinyl albums. He said, and it really helped me. Well, now he's a teacher. He's a really well thought of English teacher.
Wow.
In South America, and he's got loads and loads of people who have grown up because he's been that effective in their lives, you know. And that sticks with me more than anything.
Just about to say, moments like that's going to be with you for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
We're good friends now.
I was just about to say, do you still keep in contact with Aldo?
Absolutely. He's just getting married to the most wonderful girl. So
wow,
he's very, 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 very happy lad.
Congratulations to him if he watches this back. Congratulations to him. That's amazing. I've lost where I am. So beyond Venom, you've involved in other bands. You went on with Venom UK, Venom Inc. for a little bit, and of course now on your own as Abaddon UK. How do these projects compare to your experience with Venom?
I think it's because of the type of band I've always been with. It's always a bunch of like-minded guys hanging out. So when I wasn't playing live with Venom or recording with Venom, I was a tour manager, and I went out with bands like Nasty Savage and Nuclear Assault.
Oh wow.
And I tour managed them. And again, it was just hanging out with like-minded guys, on a tour bus and going around gigs and hanging out with people. The fact that I was putting stage shows together and checking riders and all this kind of thing was just I was doing something useful for the band. And the fact that I wasn't drumming didn't make any difference. So I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed being when I had a recording studio. I enjoyed being in the studio situation with bands that were coming in, creating new stuff. It's just hanging around with like-minded people. It's like being in a biker gang or something, I guess.
Yeah.
You just you sit and you go over stories with people and what they've done and what they've been through, and it's amazing. It's been a great life.
Did you have a little stint in DEFCON 1 as well, or no?
No.
No.
That was Conrad's brother.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you had a little stint in DEFCON 1 as well. That's absolutely fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. So, looking ahead, really, what's your take on where do you see heavy metal going in the future? Because obviously you've seen metal from the late 70s going all the way where we are today. Yeah. So where do you see metal going in the future?
After what happened with the lockdown and the COVID thing, it seems to be that people, not just the massive bands, it seems to be the bands are able to get back on the road again now, make a bit of money and support themselves. That was a really important time after lockdown when people just weren't traveling, they weren't paying for bands, and that seems to be getting better now. So that ability to go out and play live, and you go to Trillions any night of the week and you can see it's rammed.
Yeah.
Dependent, independent of whether it's a punk night or a metal night or covers bands or whatever. So the scene locally is getting back to where it should be, and on an international basis, I think. So we've been asked to go over and play in Germany in a couple of weeks and Scandinavia. So yeah, it's getting back to what I want to be. Sadly, Eric Cook isn't with us anymore. Otherwise, he would have been pulling strings and making magic. I've no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's fair play. And you recently played Trillions a couple of weeks back, I believe it was, or it might have been even a month or so. My friends in Trendkill supported with yous.
Oh, cool.
Which an absolute amazing time from what I could hear. And I also believe Antland joined you on stage for a brief.
He did, yeah, with Cat Gillum from Thronehammer.
Yeah.
We only had one run through. We've got a new rehearsal space set up in Newcastle now. So they came up and had a run through Bloodlust with us, and then got up and did it live after just one rehearsal, and it was absolutely knockout. We did that in Witchenhour.
Nice.
And it was brilliant. It was really good. It was a great gig. I mean, it was absolutely jam packed again. Not because of us, just because it was Trails,
Yeah, of course. Friday, Saturday night, always rammed in there, like you just said. Any more of those little collaborations in the future?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I think we're doing a thing. I don't know if you know a lad called Paul Stone. Stone.
Not really.
Again, he's more from the punk side of things, and Paul's putting an album together with some of the other punk guys and myself doing some Venom stuff, some of the other, the more well-known punk stuff, and some new tracks. So There's studio stuff coming out. There's live stuff coming out, and we're all fit and healthy and looking to get back at it again.
Oh, some new Abaddon tunes in the work. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Looking forward to that. So, what message do you have for any aspiring drummers and musicians who look up to yourself?
I've got to say, it's not really my words. It's Dave Grohl's words, who was influenced by Venom, weirdly enough. But Dave says, what you got to do is you got to not worry about what you sound like. You got to get yourself a drum kit, get yourself a guitar, get in the garage with some mates, and have a good fucking laugh. You'll absolutely suck, but so what? Do it again and again and again. Bring your girlfriends around, entertain them. Bring your mates around, have a drink, have a laugh. But that's what you've got to do. You've got to, if you treat it as a job, you're potentially going to get in the way because there's not always enough money in this. If you treat it as a bunch of mates having a laugh and getting better as you go, you will get better week by week by week, and that's what I would say to anybody who wants to be in a band.
Good message.
If we can do it, anybody can.
Good message. Good message, definitely, 100%. Because been the same when you first started out today. Like you say, there's not much coin in it, unfortunately. Yeah, man, a great message to have. Very well. So, before we do kind of call it a quite short one, is there anything on the horizon for Abaddon UK? You have just touched on some new music, or any other projects you would like to share with fans?
Yeah, my kind of passion, I guess, apart from the kids at the moment, is I firmly believe that when we got digital sounds and leading into kind of AI in music, when we got into that and people started programming drums, I firmly believe that heavy metal or black metal or whatever suffered because of that. So my passion at the moment is to set up a studio with recording on tape with real machines, and recording just the drums. So the drums and a guide guitar. And then you can take that away, and as long as you got a good drum sound with good drums, good mics onto tape, and you can take it away, and then you can take it in your bedroom and you can put whatever guitars on, you can loop your guitars, you can loop your vocals, whatever you want to do. But my passion is to set up a recording space that is solely to record drums again in an analog way.
Yeah. I'm glad you kind of touched on AI. I've never really gotten an opinion of someone of your stature. But what's your thoughts on AI going forward?
AI in general, I don't like it at all. I mean, I think that if AI was going to do the dishes and going to sweep the carpets and do all that shit, so I could get on with being an artist and painting and recording music or singing or doing something like that would be great. But when I've got to, wipe the baby's asses and clean the carpets while AI gets on with doing the artwork, then there's something drastically wrong.
Yeah, because I do feel it's not gonna go anywhere, unfortunately, and it's getting freaky. How well it's getting really freaky because like some of the artworks that are coming out, it's now doing full-fledged songs.
Yeah. I don't think it has any place in our form of music. I really don't. I really think we have to, from my point of view, we have to take a step back and regain the heart of the music, the soul, the passion, because that's where it's at. That's where it was with Motorhead. That's where it was with Judas Priest. These weren't the best guitarists in the world. They weren't, virtuoso drummers or keyboard players, and they all got better from just being around each other.
Yeah.
Not from any sort of pushing buttons.
Yeah. That I kind of disagree with. I just feel it's not going to go anywhere. Maybe if it can get used effectively, but how would it be used? That's the question.
You'd have to strip it back, and you'd have to teach it to have a soul, which is the one thing you can't. You'd have to teach it to care. That's what you'd have to do. You'd have to teach it. You'd have to teach AI to give a fuck about the music it was playing.
because it's got like it's got no passion at the end of the day. You know yourself. Once you're into metal, you're in it for life, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't pretend. You can't build passion or heart or soul into something that only understands algorithms.
Yeah.
And binary code, you know.
Yeah, and like it's 100%. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Tony, thank you so much, man, for the chat. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely brilliant talking, mate.
No, this just thank you very much for this, man. This means an absolute a lot to me. Just for the music over the years.
It's going to outlive me.
Mate, it will outlive us all. That will still be going when we're all dust. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That record will still be going for many years, centuries to come. Because like I say, it is influencing so many bands, not just around the Newcastle and around the world, man.
Absolutely, 100%.
So I can't thank you enough for all the music that you've given us over the years. It's endless. Because like I say, I'm just getting lost for words now, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah.
It's no worries whatsoever. Hopefully I'll get to see you in some shows in the future.
Absolutely.
No worries whatsoever.
And
buzzing. Who knows? Because I sometimes I'll not dox where we're both are, but I sometimes venture in your parts and just go for walks and stuff. So I might even bump into you sometime. So I'll end like this.